So I've been shooting a lot of photos with my Fujifilm X100 lately because that's my favorite camera that I have, and it's such a joy to shoot with it and it looks awesome, so it makes me want to shoot as well. And that's a very important reason for me, is for a camera to look appealing, kind of like invites you to want to go out and shoot. It sounds really stupid, but I don't think I'm the only one with this mindset that if a camera looks good, that you want to shoot with it. Because I owned a Canon DSLR like whenever I started photography, and I just didn't feel the same passion as when I'm shooting with a Fujifilm camera. And it also applies to the camera that I'm gonna talk about in this video, which is Fujifilm X100 original. So right here, the Fujifilm X100 original. I got this in black a few months ago, and I've been really enjoying this camera. And as you can see, it looks amazing, and that's one of the reasons that I got this camera, is because it just looks so retro and it has something to it, and I really find that really important. So if you think that's stupid, okay, it has a great shooting experience. In the video that I got this camera, I talked about that I wanted to try something new with this camera by using the optical viewfinder a lot, which I am doing, and because I'm not gonna sell this or whatever, but yeah, the optical viewfinder is just great to use. And then if you flip a switch, you can go to the electronic viewfinder. You can just switch between the viewfinder modes, and it's just so handy to use. And I really like both, because the optical viewfinder you can just see a little bit more, but the electronic viewfinder is great for your exposure, even though you can't see your exposure on this camera actually, or it's a problem with my camera, but I have to really rely on the meter on the side of the screen to see my exposure. I think it's called exposure compensation. So yeah, I have to really rely on that, but the viewfinders are great. The lens is also very nice to use. The 23mm focal length is not my favorite, but I'm starting to get used to it. I never really liked the 23mm focal length because it's just a little bit too wide for a standard focal length in my opinion, and I much prefer just the 33 1.4, or I own the 35 1.4. I really like those focal lengths, and that's probably my favorite for forever, I guess. Yeah, the lens is great. As I said, the f2 aperture is also fine to use. You can get some great background blur and bokeh, which is very pleasing from this camera with the sensor in it. And the sensor is a 12 megapixel sensor, which is more than enough for Instagram, because I post on Instagram and I sometimes occasionally print some photos, and I think the 12 megapixel is just good enough. If it was like below 10, I don't know, I think I would get another camera, but I think 12 is just good enough. I'm not very well versed in like megapixel and all the technical terms, but for Instagram it's great. So if you are one that posts their photos on Insta or Reddit or whatever, 12 megapixels is more than enough. So yeah, the flash is also very great, and one thing that's also amazing about the X100 series is that they have a leaf shutter. So that means that it's dead silent whenever you shoot a picture, or it's very silent. It also means that you can sync your flash with any shutter speed. If I'm being honest, it's not something that I used very often because I shoot in broad daylight usually, so I don't need a flash. But I mean, it's handy if you need a flash in like low light scenarios, so I guess that's great. Other than that, the buttons are very nice to use, but one thing that I don't like is you can see a scroll wheel here. I don't really like that, to be honest. I much prefer a regular D-pad. I'm glad that they got rid of this because it's just flimsy, and sometimes I misclick and I don't like that. I'm glad that they got a D-pad, and I think the X100V and the 6 have a joystick, which is I'm fine with that. Battery life is not the best, to be honest. I had to buy 2 other batteries to like use this a full day. I need like 3 batteries. So yeah, you should really be aware of that. You need a lot of batteries because these are like very old Fujifilm batteries. So and they are also very hard to find because they're like 12 years old, and this camera is also like 12 years old. I didn't even mention that, but this is an old camera, so be aware of that as well. It's slow. It's very slow. The autofocus is slow. The menus are slow. Just using and controlling the camera is just not gonna be like a newer camera from the recent 5 years or so. So it's very slow. So you need to take your time, and you can't shoot like very fast moving subjects or whatever. So this is more for a casual, like chill, relaxed photo walk type photography, I guess. Yeah, just bring this with you wherever you go, because it is small and it fits in your jacket pocket. It fits in my jacket pocket, and I have a regular North Face winter jacket, so yeah, it's great to bring with me with the colder winter days. And other than that, I guess that's everything I had to say about this camera. I have probably showed some pictures. Yeah, other than that, the shutter speed dial is very nice to use, all the dials and buttons, as I said. Overall, it's a great camera for anyone that's looking for a compact camera from Fuji, but it is really slow. That's kind of a downside. It's slow, so I don't really like slow cameras. I want to go to film recipe to film recipe. And now we're talking about film recipes. You can change your like highlights and shadows and stuff, but you can save them. So every time you want to use another film recipe, you gotta change everything. And this is not an X-trend sensor, so it's also kind of difficult to make film simulations. There's probably a few on Fuji X Weekly. It's definitely not as easy as newer cameras like the X-Trends 4 or 5. So I usually shoot RAW on this camera and just edit in Lightroom, or I sometimes shoot JPEG black and white, which is not very demanding, and black and white out of this camera are very nice. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you are considering a X100 series camera. I really like this camera. I also like my X100T. I'm looking to upgrade to an X100F or an X Pro 2. So those two cameras are on my next wish list for cameras, but they are so expensive. It's kind of crazy. They're like 800 or 900 euros for a 7-year-old camera. I'm not gonna pay that much for such an old camera. But yeah, I really like this camera. Make sure to leave a like and comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Happy New Year, by the way, I forgot to mention that. I hope you guys had a great New Year's and Christmas, and I hope 2025 will be even better. Thanks so much. Bye.